Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of the Voluntary Exchange Podcast for Monday the 26th of 2019 and August. That's the month, August, yeah. Was going to do a nice wrap-up of the weekend and kind of set the stage for the week, but I kind of did that on Saturday. There hasn't been any really big developments other than the China and G7 news. I mean, a meeting of world powers doesn't do anything to me. More interestingly, when I came into work this morning and I started reading everything, the drone attack that Israel took credit for in Iraq over the weekend, that the U.S. had acknowledged was Israel, which brought them into the public spotlight, which is something they usually try to avoid. Looks like that escalated, and the regime in Tel Aviv was very busy this weekend, not just in Iraq but elsewhere. So you have drone attacks in Iraq, western Iraq, which they consider areas held by Shiite rebel groups backed by Iran. Now you already have the Baghdad government very close to Iran. So the entire country could be seen as a proxy for Iranian power if you actually buy into the narrative that Iran is trying to take over the region and expand their territory, which is the exact opposite of what is the truth, in my opinion. Israel is expanding their territory. Now, Iran does have influence in Lebanon, as we'll get to, Syria, and Iraq, but the entire terror war is become focused on supporting radical terrorism against Iranian interests, which was not what the U.S. Population and Americans signed up for, but it does sound like a policy that the government in Tel Aviv under Netanyahu would support. So why does the U.S. and people like me have to focus on Israeli policy in their own region? That's because they get full support from our president and my tax money. So in one weekend, they have the most powerful, least air power in the region. So they always play the victim against Iranian aggression at their doorstep. When Iran's not a threat to the U.S., they might be a threat to Israel, but Israel is a threat to what Iran considers their interests. So, two sides of every coin. So you had the drone attacks in western Iraq. You also had drone attacks in Syria on installations, and this is the interesting one. On installations in Syria, and the Israelis just simply say they are Iranian positions within Syria that were planning to attack northern Israel, and we retaliated against their threat. So we hit them first, but trust us, they were going to hit us. No, the Iranian government is not going to attack the actual land of Israel. They're not. That would immediately bring the United States into it. That would immediately bring in European powers, or at least pushes from European powers to get involved, and it would give a lot more credence in the United States to an invasion of Iran. It's clearly something that the Israelis want to dangle out there and see if the media can sell it to enough people. I don't buy that for a second, that the Iranians were planning to bomb northern Israel, I don't know where that would come from. Now, do they mean the Golan Heights, which is technically still not Israeli, other than under Donald Trump and Netanyahu's regimes? I don't know. They also bombed, and this is the one that really spiked tensions, because it really has not been something, the area has not been really a powder keg recently. The Israelis sent drones into Beirut in Lebanon and attacked positions there that they considered were Hezbollah and Iranian positions, and also in the Bekaa Valley in the north, which is a Palestinian-held area where you have Palestinian groups, militia groups that were formed back early in the 80s in Lebanon. They were also attacked by Israel. So Israel's, in my opinion, picking a fight with all their enemies at once, under the guise that they're striking against Iranian power. I see this as them trying to restart this U.S. versus Iran tanker situation that never escalated to where they needed it to be. A war was never created, and now they're taking it upon themselves to defend themselves, I guess, in their own minds. But at least I would rather them send the drones to their enemies than the United States doing it. But what they're attempting to do with these movements is to build a narrative that the United States needs to get involved to help their ally Israel. I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't. I don't think the American people are ready for a ground war in any of these areas, or even an air war against Iran. I don't think it'll happen. But that's what I see these attacks as. Also, of course, there's domestic politics to take into account. Netanyahu is up for another elections in September after his election earlier in the year didn't stick. He has a large opposition against him, and in that crazy country, I'm sorry, a war with Iran is seen as a positive campaign strategy. So he's ratcheting it up a little bit. I think he wanted to see if the United States would handle that for him. In the past we have at least pushed down the road, and I think he's taking it upon himself to see if what kind of reaction he gets. The Lebanese president and part of the Iraqi Parliament that's closely tied with the Iranians both declared the attacks a declaration of war. And in Iraq, they declared that they would like the United States troops to leave the country, as their presence is what creates the tension, which there is an argument for. If the United States troops weren't in Iraq, why would the Iranians feel that they would need to be having troops on the ground, or whatever they have on the ground, to influence things there? Now, of course, the Iranians and the United States were actually fighting together in Iraq against ISIS, and they still are. But that's not for anything. That's not for any American to know. So the situation is complicated. That's where we are right now. We'll see how this week leads, but that is my theory, that these attacks are to provoke a narrative, or create a narrative that provokes at least some kind of emotional reaction from the American electorate, where they can kind of try to sell us on, extending our footprint in the Middle East, which only harms the American population, but can assist in the larger Israel project. So that's all I have for this one. If something comes out by the end of the day, I'll do another video. If not, we'll have one out tomorrow. I will continue to follow this story. Check out our website over at decentralizedtruth.com. And always on the YouTube channel, Decentralized News, and at the Information War over on Steemit, which is the social media website that we post to on the Steem blockchain. The YouTube has all our videos on there. I know Truth Force will be doing a couple of new videos this week, starting today. He's been covering the Antifa craziness out there in the West. And we'll see what kind of topics we get into. We are looking for additional video creators. So if anybody is already engulfed in politics and the debunking the mainstream narrative about things. Doesn't have to be conspiratorial or anything crazy like that. It just needs to be, like kind of what I'm doing. There's nothing conspiratorial. It's just actual digging below the surface and getting into the facts, which by definition debunks the main narrative, which is never based in facts. So reach out to us if you're interested. We'll see what we can do. We'll see if it's somebody we want to deal with. We also are on Minds, and also but everything's on our website. If you go on to decentralizedtruth.com, everything links from there. All the links in YouTube also link to where else you can find us. Again, I'll have another video out tomorrow. We'll see where this goes. I'll hit on Hong Kong, and I'll get into China and the other stories I was covering last week as more something comes out. I don't want to waste anybody's time. So until next time, I appreciate the support, and see you guys later.